Hello and welcome to another episode of Staying Power, a show that is all about building a better life. And whatever you think we mean when we say that, we do mean it when we say that. And every week we come together to talk about just one little section of that. And we hope that it resonates with you because it resonates with us. Who do I mean by us? Well, there's me, just JDK Winnikin. And with me, as always, is always Ashley Knievel. Hi, Ashley.
Hi.
How are you?
Oh, I'm fabulous. Thank
Good.
you. How are you?
Good. I'm doing well. And we're always excited to do this show every week, I know, but we get particularly excited when we have guests in studio. And today we have not only a guest, but our first returning guest.
Yes.
First returning. We'd like to welcome back to the show Chris Wolf.
Cool Chris.
Cool Chris. There we go. He named himself that, everybody.
I heard always Ashley. I had to hop in.
It works. Alliteration is powerful,
That's right.
It is. Also, I want to make sure I mention that Chris's wife, Christine, is also here in the studio with us. She's not on mic.
She's going to kill you.
That's fine, but she's here. And it's important that she's here because both of them are the co-founders of Pathfinders, which is is it a branch of the Acton Academy system? Is that the way to describe it,
So
Chris?
we're the local campus of the Acton Academy Network.
Okay. And they're located in Sammamish, Washington, here in the Puget Sound area. However, there are 300 similar academies around the world.
All around the world. Yep.
All around the world. What are some places that these academies are in?
I think the second ever one was in Guatemala City.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah. We at the owners conference this year, we met this family who run one in Pakistan.
Oh, wow.
Right. Europe, Africa, South America. They're springing up pretty much all over the place. And obviously all over America as well.
Great. Well, and we're excited to bring you on because this fits with our episode last week, Ashley, which remind everybody what we talked about last week.
It was our small stumbles.
Small stumbles, right?
What more alliteration?
More alliteration. It's just a
I
theme.
see a trend here. But just, how we go through those in life and what can you learn from them? And in preparation for this episode, that sometimes it's good to start learning them as little kids and learn how to conquer things and that life isn't so scary. Because you can actually exceed and excel, even though you have little stumbles. And it might be a little stumble, but it be setting you up for a greater success. And how we do that as little kids, and then we continue as adults.
Absolutely. Wow, that was well put.
Oh, thanks.
And one of the reasons why we wanted to have Chris come on and Christine in the studio for support, I'm going to keep saying it, okay, is because you guys are introducing this to kids at a very young age.
I wouldn't even say introducing. I would say the system is built around it.
Okay. Absolutely. Which is even more compelling the way you put it that way. Okay. So
and not just failure, right? But giving learners an opportunity to make choices, make decisions, have successes, and have failures.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Like you said on the last episode, it's two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
You can't, I liked your analogy. You can't experience heat without cold, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't experience failure without success.
This is true.
I do want to talk about failures and micro failures and little stumbles.
Small stumbles.
but also the flip side, it's in the pursuit of those successes.
Absolutely. And thank you for that context, because you said that better than I think we even said it last week, because that really is what it's about. We're all looking for those types of successes. We just live in a society these days that really sometimes separates those two things, right? I have to be more successful, and to do that, I have to avoid failures of any magnitude. Okay. So with that in mind, I think the best place to start is, Chris, is how did you end up deciding? How did you guys end up deciding that you wanted to do this, that you wanted to open a school on this model? What's your personal history with it? And then we'll get into the structure of how it works.
Sure. Well, I think one thing that the vast majority of people can agree on, which is not something we say very often these days, right? But the one thing that the vast majority of people can agree on is that traditional education is not working in the modern age. And we can argue to what degrees and this and that and the whole thing, but you'd be very hard put to find someone who's going to stand up on their soapbox and say, I love my local public education system. It's perfect. It's preparing my children the best for success. Right? Everyone knows that. We don't have to beat a dead horse. And so for me and my wife, when we got married, we started talking about having kids, kind of thinking down the road. And I, maybe foolishly, maybe not, planted my flag in the ground. I said, I'm never putting my kids in public school.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is important in that conversation because we were having our kids together, right? So
Right.
any non-negotiables were going to apply both ways.
Yeah.
And it's a really easy thing to say when there's no stakes, right?
Mhm.
It's really easy to take a stand when there's nothing at stake.
Sure.
And the kids weren't even born yet. They were just like, yeah, we're going to have them later. Easy, later. And we have the kids. And they're little. It doesn't matter yet because they're little. But then they start to get bigger, right? And then it's like, oh, we got to...
We need to make that decision.
Right. Remember that thing you said? Oh, yeah, that one. Right. And so,
okay.
we were really struggling. A little more background. You remember on my last episode, I dropped out of high school.
Yeah.
And I dropped out of college.
Right.
And then I became a successful entrepreneur.
Yep.
Right. So something in there wasn't working the right way. Right.
Yeah. There's a larger message in there for you.
For sure. But even for Christine, she got her degree. She got another degree. We average 1 degree each.
Thank goodness for her.
Nice work. Yeah. Raising the level on the
So raise the bar.
But we both got to that same conclusion. We went through this traditional system and it didn't work, right? And so we're looking at all these options. This option over here was a very expensive version of public school, and this option over here had its own drawbacks, and homeschool wasn't quite for us, just with our lifestyle and what we do and our careers and everything. And we were actually like really despairing. And complaining on social media, as one does sometimes when you're despairing about things. And I had a friend from who lived here, moved to Oklahoma. She said, "Hey, have you heard of Acton Academy?" I said, "No, I've never heard of Acton Academy in my life." She said, "We send our 2 boys to an Acton out here in Oklahoma. You got to check it out." So we look it up. I'm like, "What? What the heck is this?" Right? And then it was, "Oh, what?" It was an answer to our call, right? Light after like darkness and worry, because you're your parent, right? You care about your kids. You want the best for your kids, right? Like you want good for you and you want the best for your kids, right? And so there's so much worry and stress. And then we found this thing. Holy cow, this is amazing. Learner driven, multi-age. They're so engaged. They're so excited to go to school. They're so independent, solve problems on their own. This is what we want, right? But then the nearest one at the time, we look up, nearest, find school or whatever. Nearest one was like Anacortes, which for anyone who doesn't know Western Washington, Anacortes is about 2 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
So not a daily commute. So it was a real gut check moment. How much do you care, right? You planted your flag in the ground. You're an entrepreneur. You have these like things that you believe that you want for your children.
We see where this is going.
Yeah.
How much do you care, right?
Yeah.
And so that launched us on our journey of opening an Acton Academy.
Man, that's what happens when you plant the flag in the ground.
Yeah.
That's quite a question.
A little foolishly, a little exuberantly, probably. I didn't know, at that moment, I never know what it would take to do this.
Sure.
Mhm.
Sure.
Right? Like frequently in life, we set out on adventures and we don't know.
Sure.
Which is probably good if you think about it, right?
Yeah, but having your children and your wife as like your absolute of reason beyond belief if you could do it or not, like I will. There is no question, because their future, who you built with this amazing person sitting across from you over there, is like resting on you, and you're like, I got to do it.
Failure's not an option.
It's not.
That's amazing.
At
That's
that
great.
point. I
Which is
really
funny
like
because we're
that.
talking about failures.
Yeah.
Well, that was the one that was not optional, actually.
And there's actually no problem with that approach, right? If you're really striving to avoid failure for something that, certainly for time life and death, like NASA, you want to have something like that. Try to bring astronauts back from space. That may not be the
right.
best.
Either they make it back or they don't.
They
right?
don't, right? Yeah. So you don't want to quibble on that. However, there's so much we could ask you about your backstory to all that, but that's a really good start. So
sorry, I hate cutting you off, but I have to.
Cut me off.
So the subject of failure and definitions, right? I listened to your episode last week. I just want to make the point that failure only happens if you can't keep going. So like, yeah, you're in space and the astronauts blow up and they're dead. That's gone. Game over. You cannot then put the dead astronauts back together, unfortunately. Right? But if you're trying to do something and it doesn't work, or you quote unquote fail, you can try again. And you can try again and again. And it's just a point I wanted to make from what I heard last. Like, it's only a failure if you accept that it's done. That's like a true failure, or like something that's time sensitive. Like, I missed this deadline, it's done. But most things in life, even if you miss a deadline or you fail the test or you don't pass the examination or you don't get the job, you get to keep going again and trying to do it the next time with those lessons you learned.
I wrote that down. That's awesome.
That's a really great point.
Failure only happens if you can't keep going. I like that a lot.
I promise I won't cut you off too much.
Dude, that's okay. We brought you on this show for you to talk about this, so that's okay. Now, with that in mind, let's talk about how this works. Okay, so really quickly, take me through the day of a Pathfinder learner.
Nice. Yeah, our little Pathfinders.
That's what they're called. The kids are called Pathfinders.
Yeah, okay. Call them Path. So we don't say kids and students; we say learners because they're learners. But yeah, our mascot, I guess you would say, is a Pathfinder, kind of like a little Sherpa dude or dudette going up through the mountains, finding their way. So yeah, day in the life. Show up 8:30. We circle up, and my favorite part of this whole thing, even though there's a lot of great things, we start every day with a Socratic discussion.
Tell me more.
So, what's the point of school? What's the point of learning? Like, you're trying to learn, right? You're trying to engage your brain. You're trying to grow. So, the first thing we do every day is we engage everyone's brain. And we ask a question that doesn't have a right answer. And you have to pick one way or the other. You're not allowed to say, oh, both or neither. Or, well, what if I do this? And then, no, you have to pick A or B. And then once everyone picks A or B, then we throw, well, what if? And the whole point of the exercise has nothing to do with getting the right answer because there is no right answer. The point is to get everyone thinking and questioning and having to speak and stand up for their thoughts. I would do B because this. And then, oh, well, did you know about that? Well, I would still do B, even with this additional information or whatever, right? And we do that literally every day. And some of them are silly and some of them are serious, and some of them are really, really deep and some of them are like, more shallow, right? But the point is we engage learners and we make them speak. There's no hiding in a Socratic discussion, right? You have to think, you have to answer, you have to speak. And I don't think those are skills that are practiced in life all the time. Right?
No, definitely not in school.
Right.
Because usually there's picked on like 2 or 3 people in the class and then everyone else is silent because they don't want to speak.
Right. Or you have an instructor that's just simply giving information and the expectation is memorize the information and then in some format spit it back at me. Right.
Exactly. So we start every day with that. And that goes however long it goes. And sometimes for the younger learners, we'll do like a few minutes of yoga, something like that first, get the wiggles out, tree pose. Right.
Nice.
But then our first big block of the day is core skills. And this is one of the things that really, really is different than anything else I've seen. Some Montessori, but not really. It's reading, writing, or math. And the learner gets to set a goal for what they want to work on for that time. You get rewarded for hitting your goal and this and that, right? And you get to pick what you're working on and when. And you could be doing some writing thing, working towards your writing achievement badge, right? You could do that for 20 minutes. You could say, I'm done. I'm going to go do some math. Or you could go do math. Or you could do 2 hours of math. About 1:45, 2 hour, big block. So it's core skills, reading, writing, math, things you're doing by yourself. And there's a whole incentive system and the way we measure progress, right? We can get into all of that. But the core of it is you're choosing. You're being inspired. You're given the choice. Here's the rewards for getting your writing badge. Here's the rewards for getting your next math badge achievement, right? And sometimes now that's where it gets to be like real life, right? And it's like, well, some days I'm really on it, right? And I'm getting tons of stuff done and I'm in it. And some days it's harder for me. Or maybe something happened and I'm thinking about that, We actually give the learners a space to feel that and to work through that. And people always ask, well, what if they choose to do nothing? I'm like, sure, everyone will choose to do nothing for a few minutes, right? But, when your friends are doing stuff and your friends are getting rewarded for doing stuff, right? And you have a guide who really cares about you and is asking you questions like, hey, JD, I noticed you're not really too engaged today. What's going on? Right? It just creates way more buy-in and independence. And we do this literally from 5 years old.
Amazing.
Now, the Spark Studio, the youngest group, they need a little bit more help than maybe a 9-year-old or a 14-year-old, right? But we start that same system right from the very beginning.
Got it. And who are the adults that are with them? I know you guys founded the school.
Yeah. So we have full-time guides. So each studio has a full-time guide. But a guide is really cool because a guide's not a teacher. A guide, their role is to inspire, equip, to redirect. Technically speaking, in the true Acton methodology, when we're really on our P's and Q's, really delivering excellent guiding, we never answer a question directly. Now, again, that gets really hard with a 5-year-old, right? You know, it's like, how do I sound this sound out? Like, okay, let's work through this, right? But generally speaking, what's the capital of Brazil? Well, where have you looked? What tools have you used? Who have you asked? Right? So it's not just deflecting to deflect, but asking them meaningful questions to help guide them where they need to go. But the learner is the one who goes there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a really successful model for kids. Great.
Well, here's the thing. Kids want to learn. Kids of all ages are biologically programmed to learn. That's how you survive. You watch mom and dad. Okay, don't, do this, do that, whatever. Your older siblings, other learners, right? Like, we want to learn. What's this? Why is the sky blue? Why is the moon there? Why is there only one moon? Why is there a sun? Where's, they have a million questions. They want to learn. And one of the things I've learned is that adults frequently just get in the way because we're trying to protect them. We're trying to mold them. We're trying to keep them from failing.
And probably trying to teach your child the way that they learned best, assuming if it worked for them, then obviously my child's going to learn that way too.
There's that, but the one that really gets me is, well, I had to deal with it, so they'll be fine. It's like, so that didn't work the best for you.
Look how you turned out.
And you're still, you're still complaining about 7th grade, whatever, but you're going to put your kids in the same system. It's hard, right? I get it. I'm a parent. I have a career. These are hard decisions. But.
Well, it's nice to know that there is a really great option out there for people who did see themselves going through 7th grade or like, I don't want my kids, I want better for my kids. There is better out there.
Totally.
That's amazing. So it sounds like that in this system, the support, the safety, right, all the things that parents mainly are concerned about for their kids is woven into this, obviously, in the approach. Because if they're doing that and they have a guide that's kind of keeping them on task and keeping them going in a positive direction, they're going to feel supported. They're going to feel safe, right? And they're certainly, it's not a free for all kind of thing. So
and that's the thing. People hear learner driven and they just assume it's a free for all. But the point is that there's a specific structure that's built for these learners to be engaged and be excited and be happy within the structure, so they don't go too far out of bounds.
Got it.
Right. So they're moving forward. They're being challenged. They're not being left to just, well, he never wanted to do math. So here we are 6 months later, he's never done math. That's not what learner driven means.
Got it. Okay.
It is a structure.
Well, and what I'm excited about with this that we'll hit right after our first break is some of the larger philosophical underpinnings of this. I know it's set in the hero's journey. I know you want to talk about the hero's journey.
Absolutely.
So we're going to talk about that when we come back from our first break. And we'll also, when we come back from our first break, do our weekly segment. This week it is 2 Minutes of Triumph. And we've made it a little bit special for today's episode.
Yes,
so come on back here in just a second here on Staying Power here with Chris Wolf and all the Pathfinders of Pathfinders Academy. See you in a minute.
Are you ready to discover remarkable stories of resilience and cultural connection? This is Diaspora, a show sharing the journeys of first-generation immigrants from the Indian subcontinent, now building their lives in North America. Inspiring, insightful, and always engaging, Diaspora offers a unique perspective on the immigrant experience. Join me, Aditya Mehta, my guests, on the Diaspora Show every Wednesday at 2 p.m. right here on KKNW.
Statistics show that roughly 20 veterans die by suicide every day in the United States. Canines for Warriors is the leading nonprofit organization providing highly trained service dogs to veterans with PTSD and other invisible wounds of war. Backed by scientific research, Canines for Warriors has transformed the lives of more than 1,000 veterans, helping them reclaim their independence. To find out more, please visit caninesforwarriors.org.
Alternative Talk 1150, talk radio for the body, mind, and soul.
Welcome back to Staying Power. JD here with Ashley.
Hello.
And also with us today is Chris Wolf, one of the co-founders of Pathfinders at Acton Academy School in Sammamish, Washington. He's here talking about the really innovative, amazing learner-driven model that this school does. And I think Chris, we're probably dispelling some myths, hopefully, in all of this. Really happy to have you here for that. Really happy to have all of you listeners. First of all, if you end up missing any of this episode and you want to catch up, or you have to leave a little bit early, remember, you can catch this as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We also have our own YouTube channel now, so you can see video of this if you want to see Chris, in all his glory, howling.
I dressed up.
He dressed up, right? Polo, khakis, looking good. And in the show notes at those locations, as well as at our radio home, 1150 AM KKNW, you can find all the information you need to connect with Ashley and myself, either via social media or our email at stayingpowershow@gmail.com. So before we jump back into the discussion of Pathfinders and all this and the hero's journey, which is where we're going to start, it's time for our weekly segment where Ashley and I each take 2 minutes to talk about something that happened in the past week or something like that. That was either a triumph or a terror and what we learned from it. This week, it is 2 minutes of triumph. Here we go.
Yes.
All right.
Every time.
I
love
it.
music.
I know it's so good. It's so good. That's an Eric original, our engineer. Ashley, you're up as always.
As always, me first. You know what? I actually, in light of everything we're talking about, I think my triumph for the week is actually learning about your school, because I was homeschooled as a child up until high school, and it was great. Love you, Mom. You did a fantastic job, because obviously look how I turned out. However,
Facts.
saying, but hearing how your school is structured, I would have loved it, like absolutely thrived in it, and probably would have been further along than I am today. But it's nice to know that for all the little kiddos that are out there and the ones that are going to be coming along, that they have something like this. This is like so exciting. I'm really excited to learn more about this, and I'm like really grateful that you guys have done this and brought this to this local area. So that's my triumph.
Nice.
turn.
Mine is
Thank
also related to Pathfinders, because just a few days ago, I went to the Pathfinders open house.
Yeah, you did.
And got to see all of this in action. I met some guides. I met some the parents of some prospective students, and certainly talked with Chris and Christine and a few others. And my triumph is I sat in on one of those Socratic discussions, and it was amazing. Now, I've done them before, right? I've got an academic background. However, this has been a first time in a long time. And it's the first time ever where I was in a Socratic discussion with a 5-year-old and people even older than me, right? Which is saying something. I'm almost 52. And it worked all the way around. And the question was, first, the base question was, would you rather be an astronaut or an astronomer? And we all had to pick that. And I picked astronaut. Some people picked astronomer. And then the subsequent questions challenged, like, well, what if your family moves to Mars, colonizing Mars? Do you want to stay an astronomer on Earth, or do you want to leave? Things like that. And what I noticed is it really highlighted for everybody and forced everyone to highlight what really matters to them. What are the pivot points in their life that matter the most? And one of the questions, some people said, no, I actually going to switch from astronaut to astronomer because I would miss all my kids' birthdays, all my friends' celebrations. I'd miss holidays. And there was no right answer. Mm-hmm. But that was a triumph to sit and see that work. And to me, the proof that it's working and still working is I've been thinking about it every single day since then.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. So that was a triumph.
All right.
So I saw it for myself, and it was amazing. So, all right, Chris, with that diving board to jump off of.
Yeah, I was going to do something totally different, but I feel like I have to keep the theme going.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Go
do
ahead.
you have a triumph for the week?
Yeah, bring it.
I don't know if I'll make 2 minutes, but the triumph. So first off, I got to lead that Socratic discussion, which is always like nerve-wracking, right? Before you lead something.
Yeah.
And you're the one who's like moderating or delivering the questions, right? So the fact that it went well, oh my God.
Did great.
Yeah. Big pat on the back. But I had this really cool moment. My son, who goes to the school, obviously we open school for them, he was really upset with me because I didn't include him on the planning for the Socratic discussion.
Oh,
yeah. So I don't know if you remember, he was a little grumpy.
That
the first
explains
couple
a few
answers.
things. Yeah.
And I had to like re-engage him as a moderator, but I circled back with him later. And the triumph for me is that my children feel so invested in their schooling, right? And in Pathfinders specifically, that he was mad at me that I hadn't included him on the planning of one of the stages of the open house. Because remember, he was running the front desk.
He was.
My 7-year-old son, our 7-year-old son, was running the front desk and had like other jobs at this open house and didn't realize we were doing a Socratic discussion and was mad at me that I didn't include him because he had value that he wanted to add. And the fact that he was so invested that he was literally grumpy about not being included.
That's amazing.
That's my triumph. Like as a parent, to see my children like thriving and also like caring.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I never cared about anything in my
Fully
school that
taking
much.
ownership in that. That's
If someone
really
was doing
cool.
something, but cool, do it. Don't include me.
Yeah.
Right. But he was mad that he wasn't included.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And he, by the way, he did a great job running that front desk. He had me all checked in, everything. Like I had to scan a QR code. I had to sign my name in. He gave me a name badge, wrote the name on it himself, picked the color because I asked him what color for my name badge would be best for the shirt I'm wearing, and he put it in yellow, which it matched.
It worked.
It worked.
You look sharp.
Thanks, man. So, all right. So with this, I mean, I'm sure any listener has a lot of different questions about some specifics, and hopefully we'll get to that. But we're going to be giving listeners a whole lot of information of where they can get more of these specific questions answered as we go. I think some of the bigger picture things with this, I think, are helpful. We mentioned the hero's journey, Chris, that this is based in the Acton Academy, more broadly speaking, is based in that concept. Can you just kind of give that kind of a quick definition of what the hero's journey is and why that's so informative for this approach?
Absolutely. The hero's journey is an essential part of the human experience that we all know, and we have all lived, and we've all seen, and all of our stories trace back to it one way or another, even back to like Gilgamesh and the first recorded stories and all that, right? It's the idea of a person going through regular life, doing regular things, and then something happens. Tragedy strikes, or the adventure calls, or something, whatever it is, right? And instead of just keeping going doing the normal thing, they branch off and they go off and do this thing. And it's likely going to be hard. There's likely going to be trials and tribulations and moments when you question, should I go back? Should I not go back? Why did I do this in the first place? Right? And all of these things. But then eventually you overcome, or you complete, or you finish, you go through, and you get back to regular life again, but you're changed. You're different. You've learned, you've grown, you've had these trials and tribulations, and whatever you've learned from them, you've now brought back or brought into the next phase of your life, right? And you can trace so many story and character arcs to that.
Yeah.
And because it's real. That's what we experience, right? Everyone is the star of their own movie, right? Everyone is a hero on their own hero's journey. And that's one of the things that I feel really grateful for my kids having this with Acton. You know, I didn't feel like a hero growing up. I didn't feel like I was going somewhere and living some important thing. I felt like I was, going to jail every day, clocking in and out of jail and getting yelled at. That's how I felt. I know, and there's better stuff about school and senior friends and all that, right? But like Acton has this idea that every learner is a genius who deserves to find their calling that will change the world.
Right.
And that kind of ties into that same hero's journey, right? But everyone's going to have a different genius. JD, you're amazing. You're the pod father, right? You organize this whole network. You're so good at talking. No one else could do that, right? I'm really great at running a construction business.
You are.
So the school thing has happened totally out of left field, right? But I have this thing that I do in the world, the service that I provide to the community. Did I grow up thinking that would be it? No, but I have this thing, right? Ashley, I know you have too many to list, so
Oh my
we're
gosh.
limited
So
time.
many.
Always
So many.
Ashley.
You're
over
so
here.
kind.
Always Ashley.
Always
achieving.
Yeah, but so the hero's journey is how we find those talents.
Yeah.
Right.
And how we build that resilience that we didn't know that we could develop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can go through regular life and you can learn things, but when you go on a journey, or when your life is a journey, or when you approach it from that perspective, every failure is a growth opportunity. It's a setback. It's a test, right? Like you could say on my journey to open the school, my wife and I's journey to open our school, right, is, there's no Acton nearby. You could see that as a roadblock or a failure, but what it became is an essential part of our hero's journey, because then it was, a further call to action. Like, well, are you going to open the school? Right?
You could keep going.
You could keep going.
You chose to keep going.
Exactly. So that's, to me, the hero's journey, and why it's important and why it's so empowering for these young learners, right? You're like, yeah, I am a hero. I got to discover myself and my talents and figure out what I'm going to do in the world. Right? I love it. Maybe it's a little corny, but.
Well, I don't think it is. And the reason, there's a couple reasons. First, we've been talking about examples where it clearly works. I mean, the story about your son just a minute ago is a clear sign that this type of thing works. Also, I mean, this is something Joseph Campbell was talking about for decades, right? The hero of 1,000 faces, and so there's that. There's the philosophical side, there's the academic side. There's a book that's been written about this, Courage to Grow.
Yes.
Right? Which the only reason I know about is because you gave me a copy on Saturday. and by the way,
you probably already read it.
I read
of course you did.
The whole thing.
Read the whole thing. Yeah. Read the whole thing. And it's very good and explains all of this. What is the author's name? I wrote
Laura Sandifer.
Thank you, Laura Sandifer. You can find it anywhere and we'll put a link for it in the show notes so people can go order it for themselves, take a look at it. That explains a lot of the roots of this, why it works, the philosophy of the whole thing. And what I love about this is we hear so much today about kids, adults seeking some sense of place in the world. And they're always seeking for it. And it can come from a lot of external sources. And we're blitzed with external, right? From social media, television, peers, life around us, the playground, wherever it might be, that the challenge of doing it internally seems to be kind of the lost frontier, if you will, that education has always been seeking to reach. And one of the reasons I love that you guys do Socratic stuff is because the ancient Greeks were aware of this. And we're talking about the difficulty of this inner landscape and that everything else coming at you was going to be a distraction if you did not have that part engaged in. And so my part in this isn't something that's just been made up. This has been talked about literally for millennia, right?
Count it.
Yeah. And in a modern sense, this is a throwback in that regard, but throwing back to the ancient Greeks ain't so bad considering that's the foundations of Western civilization. So with that caveat in mind, and yeah, I just turned this into something really grandiose.
Incredibly passionate,
but nevertheless, no, it's.
I'm loving this.
It matters.
Do you want to write more copy for
right?
me?
I don't think you need it, Chris. I think you guys are doing just fine with what you've got. Okay, so with that, Chris, actually, let's just open this up a little bit. You are the ones really doing this. What are some things that we haven't mentioned yet that might be important for any listener who is attracted to this, who is maybe a parent thinking about this, aware of the things we've been talking about, education system? What are some things we haven't mentioned yet? Where do you want to go?
Well, I think the first thing I would say is that there's never a 1,000% correct answer for how we're going to educate every child in the world. Acton's amazing because Acton does its best to provide a space where every learner can get what they need. But even then, you can find someone who says, maybe public school or traditional education was a little bit better for this particular learner. But it's okay to be scared. It's okay to be like, oh, I know something's wrong. I want to try something different. I don't know if I want to try this. It's okay, right? These are serious things. But I would also say, what behavior are we modeling for our children? Do you want to teach your kids to play it safe and keep doing the same old thing that you know is not working? Or do you want to teach your kids, hey, sometimes we're going to try something. Let's see how it works. We're going to try this new thing. We think it's better, right? Or even just, again, back to that, what are we demonstrating to our children? Because as I said a few minutes ago, right? Young humans always want to learn. Part of what they're learning is they're watching us. And there was actually a period where we were having a tough time with school and finding a world-class guide. And we really thought about closing the school. Yeah, we're good now. Everything's great. We're going to our third year. I feel super happy. But there was a time when we looked at each other like, hey, should we quit? But then it was like, well, what does that tell our kids?
You planted that flag, man.
Right?
You planted that flag. Brings to mind, Ashley, a question that you had, because this was brand new to you, right? You talk about me getting excited about it. You were passionate about it a minute ago, too. Don't forget that.
I heard that triumph.
Yeah, exactly. That was pretty passionate.
We were all there for that.
Just ignited me. But you had a question about this that I thought was interesting.
Oh, thank you. Well, because like you guys say, you have all these little learners on their journeys and they're learning things. And the parents might be trying something new because they're sending the kid to your guys' school instead of like public school and standard education. That's going to be a learning lesson for the parent as well, because unless they grew up in your guys' school, this is new for them. How does that look for the kids and probably the parents at home when their child is going to an environment like this where it's all about like learning and growing and evolving and all these things? Is there something that you guys do to help kind of bridge that gap between when the kids are at school and then when they go home? And then how do you help the parents keep facilitating what the kids spent so many hours with in the daytime?
Absolutely. It's a great question.
How does that work?
Something I actually learned the hard way.
Oh.
The parents have to be in on it too.
Mm.
Because if the parents aren't in on it too, then it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually any education. Wherever you
course.
send your
Sure.
child, if you're not in on it,
Mm-hmm.
then it's not going to work all the way. But for us, right, the inception of Acton is that it's not just the learners. The inception of Acton, that's really kind of a crazy thing to think about and scary and challenging, that we're all heroes on our own hero's journey, right? And I think some people get scared of that because they're challenged to think and act in a way that maybe they haven't been ever, or at least in a long time,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So we actually have a parent program where parents get to participate with their own badges that they can earn, and family badges.
That's
Socratic
cool.
discussions, things like that. So they get to experience it and see it.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have a parent program at first, and it was a little bit of a disaster. So we spent a lot of time trying to bridge that gap that you're talking about.
Sure.
Because everyone's really excited to do something different until they do something different. And then they're like, what's going on? Right. And so luckily we're part of a network that's already solved this problem. Right. So we screwed it up at our campus, but other people had already screwed it up 10, 15, 20 years ago. And so we learned from them and we created a parent program. So now every family who comes in, has to be full alignment. All the parents, 1, 2, 4, however many parents there are, everyone's got to be aligned.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's badges that parents and families can do, that they do on their own throughout the year, so that they can participate and feel that same learning
Mm-hmm.
and that same challenge, right? Like you had the Socratic discussion and you were like, oh man, I'm so engaged in this, right? So we have to engage the parents the same way. And that's something we learned the hard way, but we do it now.
That's great.
That's fantastic.
That is.
I
That
like
is.
that.
I do too. All right. There's so much more, and we only have so much more time. But before we do that, we need to take our second break here on Staying Power. Come on back in just a second. We are here with Chris Wolf, one of the co-founders of Pathfinders and at Acton Academy School here in Sammamish, and we're having just a great time talking about this. Come on back for more here on Staying Power.
Hello, I'm Chris Erdman. Every Wednesday at 8 a.m. on KKNW, I sit down with inspiring entrepreneurs, creative minds, and game changers to uncover the real stories behind their business. On my show, Made of More, we explore the challenges that they've overcome, the breakthroughs that they've celebrated, and the mindset that drives them forward. If you're ready to unlock your full entrepreneurial potential, Made of More is the show for you, because here we know you are made of more. Every Wednesday at 8 a.m. on KKNW.
Don't ask me to talk. There's a lot of talk out there. Political talk, sports talk, girl talk, trash talk, and so on. But there's only one, Don't Ask Me to Talk, helmed by conversational off-roaders and podcast pals Eric Ryder and Stacy Heller. They follow every tangent they encounter, from cultural blind spots to their infamous weekly Wheelo topics. Listen wherever you listen to your fave podcasts. Subscribe and share too. Or tune in every Saturday at 3 p.m. or Tuesday at 4 p.m. on KKNW.
Be sure to support the sponsors of your favorite shows on Alternative Talk 1150.
Welcome back to Staying Power. JD here with Ashley,
Hello.
along with our friend Chris Wolf, right, who owns Wolf & Wolf Construction. He's here for his second visit with us today, though, to talk about his role as co-founder of Pathfinders, an Acton Academy school that we've been hearing a lot about. And both Ashley and I are pretty fired up about it. And we don't even have kids we can send, and we're fired up. I want to go. You know,
Well, you
That
kind
was
of
my
did.
I kind of did.
That was my thought. I wanted to go.
I
was
know.
like, man, if I had this.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So we only have so much time left. So let's hit on a few things, Ashley, that I know we want to make sure that for parents in particular listening, that they may want to know about. And between the three of us, I'm sure we can hit some of those things. So
Sure. First thing that definitely comes to mind for anybody out there, I'm sure they're wondering, is I assume this is an accredited school.
Yes, internationally accredited with multiple organizations.
okay,
That's
and up through high school, right?
Oh, yes.
What
so,
are the ages?
Absolutely. So it's really cool. I'll hit it real quick. There's 4 studios.
Mhm.
Spark Studio at the beginning, which is like 5 years old to 8 years old. And
Mhm.
then once you achieve all the badges and everything in one studio, you move up to the next.
Mhm.
So the next one is Explorer Studio, which is kind of like middle to late elementary school. And then we call it Mission Studio instead of middle school, Mission Studio. That 12 to 14, 15 range where they start doing more apprenticeships and getting more out of the classroom. And then we don't have high school. We call it Launchpad, where we launch them towards their next great adventure in life, wherever that may be for them.
Got it. Now, how does that work with that system kind of moving to the next thing? Like, so expectations of a kid finishing the process and they're going to go on to college.
Yeah.
So how does that work? Does the accreditation take care of all that?
Accreditation helps a lot. And then the badge system translates really, really well to transcripts.
Okay.
And plus, in Mission Studio and Launchpad, the emphasis on real internships compared to the average learner is just really sets them apart. So what we're seeing across the network is as learners are graduating from Launchpad, they're getting into their first choice schools. They're telling their first choice schools, I'm going to take a gap year and I'll come back and go to you next year. That hasn't been a problem. That's one of the questions, like, hey, this is different. This is, this isn't a traditional grading system. This isn't a traditional path. How can we do this? But what we're finding is that Acton Academy graduates are actually in high demand.
Okay. Very interesting.
And such high demand that some of them are being tempted to just go straight into the workforce.
Well, there's
a lot of
there's value to that.
But there's a lot of people like, hey, I want to go to Columbia. I want to go to Yale. Like Ivy League schools are like clamoring for these graduates.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I would think if they're doing internships and they're into entrepreneurship, some of them are thinking of just going right into building their own businesses, perhaps.
Yep. I heard of one. I heard a talk from one of them who's a videographer, just going straight into videography business. Good for you.
That's fantastic.
That's amazing.
Of course, because they've spent so many years doing this and they're so well set up and educated in the things in life that really matter, not in just your core subjects, but the life skills that are essential if you're going to be successful in entrepreneurship or whatever it's going to look like for them.
Yeah. I mean, my 7-year-old son hit it on the head. He said, isn't Acton about, having a vision and then make it happen?
And he's 7.
Yeah. Dude. Whoa.
It's amazing.
So imagine being in that system for 14 years. By the time these crazy launchpad trips that happen, right? The high school equivalent launchpad, where the adults don't plan anything. And these launchpadders like, all right, we're going to Peru. We're going for this many weeks. Here's the tickets for this and this. The buses will pick us up there. We're going to do this and this. Here's the hotels. Boom, boom, boom. And the adults are there just for like legal liability, concerns.
Wow.
Like, it's insane what they're capable of. So people always ask about that. College. Can they get into college?
Of course.
If they want to get whatever an Acton Academy graduate wants to do, they're going to go do.
Okay.
If they want to go to college, they'll get into their college.
Yeah, that would seem to me to be a key point to try and get across to anybody wondering about that. Another thing that I know parents will ask about, how much does this cost to do? And what is there standard tuition? Are there scholarships available? Does Acton have a system like that, or is it something different?
Great question. So every campus is different. So if you're listening to this somewhere else, I can't say exactly what the other campuses do. What we've looked at in our market is what are comparable schools charging. Schools, I can't name any names, right? But comparable private schools in the East Side area are going to be 30, in some cases 40,000 plus a year. This upcoming school year, we're charging $19,500. We'll probably be in the low 20s next year. So we're well below the market, and I won't say we don't have all the bells and whistles. There's no swimming pool, and there's no private valet, chef, lunch, whatever, but what it does have is actual learning and structure and guides. Well, we have world-class guides. That's the one thing I will say. We have world-class guides.
What does that mean?
Like, I can't imagine someone else educating my children better than the ones that we have.
Do those guides tend to be people who have been in traditional education before and have found themselves in a similar spot to you guys, but from an educator's point of view?
Yes and no. I think it's pretty hard actually to come from a traditional background where the teacher is the center of everything, because the guide is not the center of everything in Acton. The learners are the center of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are teachers that can do that. I think sometimes there's teachers like, that's really great, and I'm really happy that you're doing that. They can't. Our lead guide right now, she just came over actually recently from one of those prestigious East Side private schools. Because she said, this is how learning should be. I don't want to be working at this for a 6-figure salary. I'm going to take a pay cut and I'm going to come work at your school because this is how it should be.
Wow. That's cool.
She actually taught in Canada for over 2 decades. And she said in Canada, it was more similar. So it's public education, quote unquote. But in Canada, it's more like Acton, multi-age, given more choices and variance in how they work through things. So yeah. But I mean, anyone could be an Acton guide if they are committed to the principles, specifically believing that every learner has genius in them and that they can develop it if we provide the right structure for them.
Yeah. And that provides so much, because then that provides a sense of purpose, a sense of place, a sense of mission, right? A sense of direction and a sense of agency. And we talk about it on this show literally every week. Right? The challenges in discovering what one's agency is and how to work through challenges, right? So it's kind of a setup for that, which is why you guys were a perfect choice to bring on here. Now, last few minutes, I want to get into some of the things that families can do, right? Some of those larger things, takeaways. However, I have to mention, because I'm a research nerd,
here we go,
that I looked into some of these, and just a couple quick points we don't need to discuss. But in terms of developing resilience, more and more studies show that this approach and similar ones like it show that moderate situations with non-overwhelming stress create stress inoculation that builds capacity. And that helps. And the sooner you can do that, the more successful it is.
Yes.
Right. So that fits this model perfectly. Project-based learning, right? Or however that's defined, right? Kids taking on projects and doing them at their own pace. More and more evidence is out there that for achievement, motivation, and critical thinking, there is no better way for students to be learning. There's more evidence for that.
I can tell you, we've been open for 2 years. I've been in the classroom for a lot of those 2 years. That is absolutely true. You can see it clear as day.
Absolutely. And of course, for anybody who's skeptical on this, of course, the effects of this from student to student are going to have variables, right? Not everybody, you mentioned that at the top of the show. However, quality implementation and some standardization and approach really helps, which of course Acton has. I just wanted to mention that. I looked into all that and I wanted to make sure I mentioned that because I'm a research nerd. So, which Ashley knows, right?
I think everybody knows. It's not just me.
Okay.
Your nerd is showing.
Well, it's okay. That's all right.
Maybe it's just his genius.
That's all right.
There we go. That is his genius.
Yeah.
See?
Oh,
part of being the podfather.
Gosh, I know.
Look at that. I'm blushing
You're
over here.
welcome.
Thank you.
Well deserved.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So, Chris, when we talk about practical things, right, for families to be doing, what comes to mind for you?
Well, there's a number of things, right? I mean, choice is always interesting, right? What choices can we give our children in the right structure, right? You're not going to say, hey, should we go to Disney World today or no? There are choices that are clearly not choices we should be giving 5-year-olds. I'm not going to
know what they're going to choose.
Right. I'm not going to make a huge financial commitment to fly to San Diego today, right? But simple choices, right? Between this and this, what do you choose? Or which one of these do you want to clean up first? Or do you want to do this or that, right? Choices and consequences, I think, like real meaningful consequences. There's a lot of people who say, I discipline my kids or I hold them accountable. Talking at them is not holding them accountable.
Right.
Part of failure is there's some sort of consequence with the failure, right? So like in Acton, right, a learner might choose not to do a certain activity during core skills. Like, hey, guys and girls, everyone who does this gets to be at the pizza party on Friday. And if you don't want to do that this week, that's fine, but you're going to miss the pizza party, right? And so a learner can decide in that way. And sometimes they choose not to do the necessary work and they miss the pizza party. Now, a lot of parents will see that and say, well, can we get them into the pizza party anyway? They're really sorry. They meant to.
Exactly.
No. If they didn't do the work, you can't give them the pizza party. And it's really hard as a parent when your kid's crying and I'm sorry, I'll do better next time. It's like, well, This is real life.
It's like a dual lesson for the parent and the child.
That's what I said. That's the inception.
Yeah.
That's the inception.
Yes.
We're all growing, right?
Right.
So giving your children, your young learners choices where possible instead of just telling them what to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, do you really care which bedtime book they read? Or do you want them just reading a book,
Mm-hmm.
right? I've made that mistake. Hey, read this book. Versus, okay, it's reading time. What book do you want to read for bed?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Choices. Give them agency. Let them make choices. And then also, when they make choices, hold accountability on consequences. And start with little stuff, silly stuff. Because just like your small stumbles, right, lead to big growth later, we don't have to be like, oh, well, you did this and now there's this terrible consequence right off the bat, right? Like, we can do small stuff. Another one that's part of our parent plan that we talked about, right? You asked me, how do we bridge the gap with parents?
Mhm.
So we encourage parents who are working on to work on family badges. We have badges in the studio that the learners work on and levels, right? There's family badges too. And some of the stuff in the family badges includes like taking on a hobby that you've always wanted to that you've never done, and failing in front of your child, right? And making mistakes. Like we had a parent last year who picked up a musical instrument that she'd always wanted to try, but she'd never done it. But she's like, well, my kids are doing this hard thing and they're trying, so I think it was guitar. I don't remember exactly. Whatever the musical instrument was. And she said it was pretty rough at first,
Mhm.
but her kids saw her doing that, saw her failing and stumbling and keeping going, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, what can you do at home? Let's give our learners more choices. Let's actually hold them accountable, even when it's hard for us, but it's
Mhm.
important for them to learn. And let's demonstrate these behaviors that we want. You can't tell someone to be resilient.
It's
Hey,
true.
be tougher.
Mhm.
It just doesn't work.
That's not resilient anyway.
Yeah, right.
Right.
But if it's like, hey, I'm frustrated and this is hard for me and I feel like quitting, but I'm going to take a deep breath and I'm going to keep going.
Mhm.
What is,
Mhm.
it's kind of like on a sports team when the superstar takes the coach criticism, right? Then the role player's like, well, if the superstar over here is taking it, then I have to too, right? If you as a
Mhm.
parent are demonstrating these behaviors, your kids are like, oh, yeah, that's how it's done. I got to do that too.
Mm-hmm.
Those things I would do at home.
Wow.
And lastly, I would just say, give them rewards too. So we talked about consequences, right? On the flip side,
Mhm.
if your child does something or you challenge them in some way and they achieve it, yeah, great, you earned a reward. Here's
Mhm.
$5 extra, or here's 10 minutes or 15 minutes later than bedtime or whatever. Like, that's the flip side of Acton that I love, is the positive challenges,
Mhm.
right? Like we talk about consequences and learning from failure and this and that. There's also a lot of opportunities to do, like in school, it was never like, hey, if you do the next 2 weeks worth of math, you get XYZ bonus. I would have been great if my math teacher was like, however far you can get multiplied by X, you get this, reward. I would have been the best math student ever.
I know. I know.
Right?
I wonder about that
Sure.
exactly with math myself. The
Dude,
same
I
thing.
was so good at math and I was so bored, right? So, but like give your learners and your children these like opportunities to earn things. Don't just give them
Mhm.
like an allowance just because they exist,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, hey, yeah, if you do 2 hours of yard work, I'll buy you that toy. Sure. Give them that chance to actually achieve it and to earn it, to do the work.
Amazing. Amazing. We could keep going on this, Chris.
Absolutely
I
could.
wish we could, and perhaps we will again. So we'd love to have you back at some point and hear how things are going.
I think you should have a learner on.
That'd be great. That'd be a fun.
We
thing to
should
do.
have his
We
son on.
Yeah, we could do that. We could do that.
He's more eloquent than me.
I doubt that, but it's on his way, definitely. How can people get in touch to find out more specific information on your school? What's the best way for them to find out more about Pathfinders?
Yeah, I'd go to the website.
Okay.
We just rebuilt the website so that it has a lot more resources for
Okay.
potential families to review and to look through and to engage with.
Mhm.
So it's Acton, 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 pathfinders.org. I'm sure you'll put that in the notes. And
Yep.
then
Mhm.
we just started a new Instagram too, getting on social media. Whoop, whoop,
Nice.
doing the thing. So we'll have that.
Yep, and we'll link to that. We'll take some photos. I took some photos at the open house and a few other things like that. We'll put some together. We'll tag that so people can find you. This was amazing. Thank you so much, Chris, for coming in and telling us all about Pathfinders. Hope it was as fun for you and inspiring for you as it was for us.
I had a blast. Thank you guys.
No
Awesome.
problem. And we will be back next week with another episode of Staying Power, talking about another way which we can build a better life. Thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, you can get this as a podcast wherever you get your podcast. Check the show notes for all the information from today's show that you want to see, as well as the information on how to get in touch with Ashley and myself, as well as with Pathfinders. We'll be back next week. Until then, I am just JD.
I'm always Ashley.
We will see you guys next week. Take care.
Bye.